All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our November 2025 member highlight for Rogue. My name is Claire. I'm a physical therapist here at Rogue Physical Therapy and Wellness. And I'm super excited today to have Sara joining me for us to have a discussion about your experience living with Parkinson's, implementing exercise, any positive experiences you've had, and just we're trying to, share real stories of people living with Parkinson's that hopefully are inspiring and realistic to other people. There are definitely challenges along the way as well. So, Sara, do you want to just share a little bit about kind of when you were diagnosed and what your experience has been so far with Parkinson's?
Sure. I was diagnosed when I was 46, and it was really rapid onset. So people were kind of miffed or more, they didn't understand what was happening.
And 46, how long ago was that?
2 years.
2 years ago. Okay, so you've been diagnosed. And when you say rapid onset, do you mean like when you started having symptoms, they were just pretty strong right away? Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, well, I can look back over the past years and see that I should have noticed, like, that I was cathartic or whatever. But when the symptoms came on, they came on heavy and hard and fast.
Mm. Okay. So looking back from prior to that 2 years, there was maybe a little bit going on before that, but it was pretty subtle. And then once the symptoms not so much started, but they kind of progressed, and it felt like that was a pretty rapid progression.
Yes.
So was there anything around that time, like were there any stressful events or anything like that? Or, an illness or surgery or procedure or anything like that that you feel like could have caused stress to your system that could have increased the speed of change with the symptoms?
Yes, some very significant stressors.
Okay. Yeah. So that's, common for a lot of people. Or some people go in and have a surgery and wake up and have symptoms of Parkinson's. Like it can be almost overnight. And it's not that, the surgery caused Parkinson's, but it's just that stress to the system really can exacerbate what your experience is. So once you started, like, what were the symptoms that you were experiencing that kind of were changing quickly?
The first one that came on was double vision. Like I would see two pictures, but in each eye, so I could cover them up. So I went to a number of doctors being like, what's going on? But they couldn't figure that piece out. But then the incredible fatigue and rigidity and the insomnia, those were probably the biggest
Hmm. And
factors.
so when you first saw a doctor, like how long did it take for a doctor to say this might be Parkinson's?
Probably 6 months.
Okay. And then once they said Parkinson's, did they prescribe medication at that time?
No, he didn't prescribe anything. I asked if I could be submitted to like an emergency section of our university hospital, which is 5 hours from us. They have like a neurologist on call that you can get information from rapidly. And instead, he submitted me to a local small town neurologist, who then thought about it for a month and then gave me dopamine. He gave me dopamine at 400 milligrams, and when it didn't do anything, he upped it to 800 the next appointment. So really rapidly got on
Hmm.
dopamine.
And that was carbidopa levodopa.
Yeah, yes.
And so when you were at the 400, it didn't feel like it helped much at all.
No,
And then once you tried 800, what happened then?
you couldn't even tell I was sick.
So that it did help a lot. It really made a huge difference in your symptoms.
Right. But
Oh,
then
okay.
I was seeing a rheumatologist because I had autoimmune markers in my blood work. And he said, you do not have Parkinson's. You didn't have any of these symptoms before, and this is so rapid, and that's not how Parkinson's works. So I'm referring you to the university hospital that's 5 hours away. And when they met with me, they said, this is bizarre. You don't have Parkinson's. Come off the medicine. But when I came off, I got really sick.
And really sick, basically meaning that your symptoms came back.
I got creatine kinase, so the enzyme that breaks down your muscles at a really high amount, and then unable to sleep at all and very, very rigid. Um, yeah.
Okay, so they had you come off and you felt worse. So it kind of confirmed that the medication was helping.
Well, and I didn't get all the way
So,
off, so down to 150. Yeah.
okay. So then did you end up going back to a higher dose, the dose that had been helping in before?
Well, after a couple of weeks, I just texted the neurologist and said I have to go on more. He wasn't willing to meet with me or respond to my text messages, so I just put myself back on 400, and then I started with you. And I started researching some of the stuff that you were sending me, which was tremendously helpful. The After we met together and doing some of the exercises, just game changer. Changing the diet. My small town general practitioner had tried to put me on the carnivore diet. Is terrible for Parkinson's. So I'd had a number of missteps, and I started correcting those and felt magnificently better.
Ah, that's so good to hear. So you've made dietary changes, and what kind of changes have those been?
Well, dietary changes because of you. I followed your cooking class and I got connected with Michelin, and I'm just trying to do the mind diet like so strict.
Mm-hmm. So mind diet, so more plant-based kind of mind diet is Mediterranean with some special emphasis on like berries and greens, and then really minimizing processed foods and dairy and, eating less animal products in general. So
Yeah.
you're following through on that pretty consistently?
The greens are so important. They're so helpful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's great to hear because sometimes I think dietary changes are ones that sometimes people feel a difference. Sometimes you maybe don't feel that big of a difference. But the more difference you feel when you make a change and you feel better, that's what motivates you to keep doing it. When it might be a little bit harder, it might take more time to do grocery shopping, it might take more time to make food from scratch and, make things from whole vegetables and eating whole fruits and keeping fresh things in the house. So, it takes a little bit more effort to eat this way. But when you get that positive feedback pretty quickly, that can really help you stay motivated.
Well, we were already pretty healthy. Like we have a large vegetable garden and fruit trees and stuff. So we grow our own stuff, but the I knew I had a problem with my thyroid. So I was trying to eat canned fish often to try to increase my iodine and just those fishy oils. But that's really bad, according to Michelin, right? To have the canned meats. So I think that was contributing too.
Hmm. Yeah, so that's great to hear. So that, and then I know you emailed me too, and just when it comes to, working with a neurologist and medication optimization, you had emailed me and said that, you were able to have some sort of communication with him, and maybe it was a visit, but you felt like you knew what you were talking about, and so you were able to kind of stand up for yourself and say what you needed with regards to medication. Is that true?
You provided me with so much. So a year ago, I would not have thought of myself as a boxer because I don't feel very coordinated. But after practicing with you and then meeting with you with the articles that you provided me with, and just the information you provide every time you present, I was able to like return. My neurologist would say, "But we're not doing it this way," and I'd come right back and be able to say, "But we got this information, and I'm doing 3 hours of exercise every day. I can show you my schedule." And he was really impressed and knew that I knew what I was talking about because I had had so much training from you. It was great.
Oh, that's awesome. And yet, I think the main thing was he was kind of saying we got to keep you on like low medication for, to decrease the potential side effects in the future or something that isn't necessarily 100% correct. But you were
Right.
able to say, I need to take adequate medication now so that I can exercise because I know that's what's going to help me be able to slow my progression over time.
Yes. And then when I came back to you and said, this is what I was able to do with the neurologist, you were like, well, look at the book, the new Parkinson's plan, and let's make sure that you're following this protocol to make sure you're on the right amount of medication to fine tune it. Just so great to have the
Yeah.
follow up with you. It's so great.
Yeah, and that book, The New Parkinson's Disease Treatment Book by Dr. Eric Alskog, he's a movement disorders neurologist at the Mayo Clinic. And in my opinion, it is the best book. He explains so well what medication helps with, what it might not help with, what potential side effects are, and explains how you need to get titrated, ideally, working with your neurologist, but that you need to figure out what's the right dose where you feel your best and have limited or no side effects and you're able to move and you're able to exercise because that's really what medication is for, is um, to facilitate movement and exercise. So yeah, that was so cool to hear that you felt, that you were educated enough that you could have that conversation and explain to him. And it seems like once you said those things, he agreed, right?
Yeah, well, one of the things that shows you have Parkinson's, right, is you can't get out of a chair. But when he asked me to walk for him, I was able to stand up easily. So it shows I've been strengthening and practicing. But when I walked, I had waited to take my dose. So there were obvious symptoms of Parkinson's. And he had a student with him, and he was able to say, yeah, we need to up your dose. It was great.
Okay, so good. And then let's focus a little bit more on exercise. So, what has your experience been with exercise? What were you doing before? What did you start implementing once you joined Rogue Online?
Okay, so before I have a large dog, a German Shepherd, so I always made sure we walk him morning and night. And I'm very active. I have 5 children at home, so I was pretty busy doing laundry and all those tasks. And then I teach piano, so I had exchanged with one of my students weightlifting training. So I would do that every day. But when I started with Rogue, I discovered the importance of having, sustained cardio with your heart rate elevated for 40 minutes. And that's a game changer. And then the wonderful way you feel after you do power up, just so helpful. Like you feel like you have, well, I have an infant grandson that's just been born, and some of the moves we do are just like what he's doing, right? To figure out how to crawl
Mm-hmm.
the first time, and we're relearning it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, it's very
um,
functional.
the weight training you do is different than what my piano student's father was doing, and it's much more helpful. It's just my body goes, ah, this is just what I needed. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
boxing is
and
so, it's great.
that's awesome. Okay, so what does your weekly exercise routine look like?
Okay, so I think it would be really easy to be like, poor me, I have to do 3 hours of exercise a day. But really, what a privilege to get to do 3 hours of exercise and to have found that 3 hours of exercise is enough to make you feel better and kind of keep it from progressing significantly. So I try to do all your classes and I try to add some significant cardio. So if I swim, I don't go beyond 30 minutes. I'll just swim for 30 minutes with an elevated heart rate. But if I can, I'll try to do a really vigorous walk. And I've even last week been able to run, which was really exciting for me because since I've been sick, you don't feel the balance. But on the treadmill, I was able to do that. So,
That's awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
And the 3 hours a day, I mean, that is the 3 hours a day recommendation is kind of from the research out of Italy with the intensives. And it might be that 3 hours a day is the right amount. I also think it can be a little bit flexible for you. When you are able to and you have the time, you can do 3 hours. If there are days that you do one or two, you're probably still going to be doing enough to really benefit, but that's also you can listen to your body. And I think some people do really feel better doing 3 hours versus some people that might be too much and they might feel worse after doing that amount of exercise, in which case, the exercise plan really should be personalized for each person. But it sounds like you are feeling better doing more. Is that
Well, and
correct?
the study showed 6 weeks of doing that, right? And they picked up
I think
just
4 weeks.
the coaching calls you've been doing with that have just been so revelatory. And just getting in and doing that for 4 weeks. And now I can kind of assess how I'm feeling and if I can do more or less, but just making sure that I'm really keeping a large opportunity to exercise in my day, right? Being really active.
Hmm. Yeah, make
Yeah.
sure that that's a priority, that it fits into your schedule and do other things. And so, what would you say with doing that much exercise? And you mentioned feeling better. So, what differences have you noticed exercising more and differently than you were before?
I'm sleeping better. And when I go to move, I don't have to be so cerebral about it. Like before, I think I had to say, lift your elbow, now move your arm, now grab this item, now bring it back. But because we practice it in class, that comes immediately. And then I can think about the fine tuning. But also, part of the 3 hours of exercise can be fine tuning, like occupational therapy type stuff, right? Like the folding that was so hard before, and the piano playing or whatever, those little tasks, or washing dishes. And I'll be like, I'm doing my hour of occupational therapy. Yeah.
All right. So, would you say the symptom of rigidity? Do you feel like rigidity has decreased?
Yes, it comes and goes. So it's a little bit hard to tell because I've also increased the medicine during this time. But it does feel like the rigidity has decreased, the insomnia has decreased, um, just the strength like that I need to be able to deal with the body. So a lot of I think I heard Jamie say last week, rigidity is when the muscles are weak, right? So when we strengthen them, we have the ability to overcome that way the body's trying to hold in that position that's compromised.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's kind of complex. Rigidity, I would say, mostly is muscle tightness. But I've definitely seen that when people get stronger, it reduces rigidity. So even if you weren't like objectively really weak before, if those muscles are really tight, it makes it hard to move. So if that rigidity is decreased, it should be easier to move. And you also can build strength. And the stronger you are, the easier it is to move. So it all kind of is like, you know, more flexibility helps you be able to move better so you can exercise better and then you get stronger and it all just kind of builds and builds over time. And then it sounds like balance has gotten better too, that you were able to start jogging on the treadmill.
Yeah, balance in a lot of ways. Like, I think before I came to you, I had had several falls. And since I've been working with you, and especially when I attend the power up classes, just so much better balance.
Awesome. This is so great to hear. And I'd say even this improvement that you've experienced has been somewhat recent with doing the intensive and starting to really get medications dialed in and the dietary changes. So I'd really say this is just the beginning of the improvement that you're going to experience if you are able to, stay consistent with these things. We see people just keep getting better over time. And sometimes they don't like kind of reach that peak until like 6 months or a year or two in because the benefits of exercise really can be cumulative over time. So I think you're just kind of at the beginning of feeling better. I think you're going to keep feeling more better over time. And then there's somewhere that there'll probably be kind of a peak. And then the goal is to maintain that, over time and just experience the least amount of change. We are going to change and things are going to decline to some degree as we age. That is normal, but we just want it to be the least amount and be the healthiest and strongest and have the most energy and everything, possible.
This is why I come to your classes because I have been thinking, who tells you that when you have Parkinson's? This is going to get better from here? Like, I haven't, I've been thinking all week, I'm only getting worse. And to hear you say that right now, even though I've been feeling better over the last few weeks, to go, this is just the beginning of feeling better. That's so encouraging.
Yeah, and sometimes I think putting something like that up on a piece of paper, like write it out big and put it on your wall, because you really need to see those kinds of things as a reminder. When you have Parkinson's and your dopamine is lower, your brain has a negative outlook on life and the world. And you have to so consciously, and it takes effort to hear your brain say negative things like, I'm worse, this is terrible, and say, no. Like, take a deep breath. Is that actually true? No, I actually have experienced improvement over a period of time. Yeah, maybe this week I'm having a hard week. Maybe something's different or I'm out of my usual routine. But let's look at the real data. Have I been getting better over time? And this is only, with a relatively short amount of time of implementing all these helpful things. So, yeah, my potential is really, huge. I would say like you're just pure potential. So I think finding like those phrases that we say that are meaningful, like, maybe have a piece of paper when you get back home, have a piece of paper and a marker. And when you hear things like write it out big and post it so that it is in your environment so that you see those things. And it kind of has to be like a daily mantra. When you wake up in the morning, you start getting ready, you have to say, I'm just at the beginning of getting better. I can get stronger. I can feel better. It's already started to happen. It can happen even more. It's really important to see those things and say those things to counteract the low dopamine. It's kind of like you have like a little angel on one side that you have to actively do, and you have the little low dopamine devil over here who's like, you're going to get worse. Things are terrible. And you have to like flick him off your shoulder or make him be quiet, or you have to really focus, on what the little angel is saying and the positive and the optimistic messages, because the reason we can say that is because we see it happen all the time. We see people get better. And so then we can tell people it is possible to get better. And then when those people believe it, then they follow through and do it. And then they become another example of the person getting better.
That's awesome. This is why you're better than medicine.
Well, the medicine is important too, but yeah, the medicine does not take care of all of this, and our mindset is extremely important. And that is something, mindset, exercise, lifestyle things are not, just aren't able to be addressed as well as they need to be in the traditional healthcare system. There just is not enough time. And honestly, I think a lot of doctors have not had as many positive experiences with people getting better because no one's telling them they can get better. And so they're not doing the things that could help them get better. And so there's just this self-fulfilling negative experience, and not even self-fulfilling. It's not like people expect that. It's the environment is really telling them that that's what's going to happen, and they have no reason to believe anything different. So, to be an example and to share your message and share with community and tell your doctor. And, sometimes when doctors see someone do really well, then they tell the next person they see that day, hey, the last person I saw has really implemented exercise and dietary changes and is feeling a lot better. And then, that message propagates, and there's a ripple effect, that, you sharing your story and your experience, can really help other people too. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining today and sharing your story. And we'll see you in exercise class very soon.
Thank you for what you do.